the northern states into one great sectional party, inasmuch as the North is the strongest section. They seek to outvote, to conquer, govern, and control the South. Hence, you will find they now make speeches advocating principles and measures that cannot be defended in any slaveholding state of the Union. Is there a Republican residing in Illinois who can travel into Kentucky and carry his principles with him across the Ohio River? What Republican from Massachusetts can visit the Old Dominion without leaving his principles behind him when he crosses the Mason-Dixon line? I say to you folks that no political creed which cannot be proclaimed fearlessly in every state of the Union is valid. Not only is this Republican Party unable to proclaim its principles alike in the North and in the South, in the free states and the slave states, but it cannot even proclaim them in the same form and in the same strength in each part of Illinois. My friend Mr. Lincoln finds it extremely difficult to manage a debate in the center part of this state where there is a mixture of men from the North and the South. In the extreme northern part of Illinois, Mr. Lincoln can proclaim himself a bold and radical abolitionist. But when he gets down a little further south, he claims he is an old line Whig, a disciple of Henry Clay. Has nothing to do with abolitionism or Negro equality or Negro citizenship. I and my friends can proclaim my ideals alike in the North, the South, the East, and the West. My principles will apply wherever the Constitution prevails and the American flag waves. I never intend to waver one hair's breadth from any issue, either in the North or the South, or wherever I should address the people of Illinois. I hold that when the time arrives that I cannot proclaim my political creed in the same term in the North and the South, that there's something wrong with my creed. So as long as we live under a common constitution, so long as we live in a confederacy of sovereign and equal states joined together with one purpose, that any political creed is radically wrong, that cannot be proclaimed in every state and in every section. Our founders knew this when they made the government, that the laws and the institutions which were well adapted to the Green Mountains of Vermont were unsuited to the rice plantations of the Carolinas. They knew then, as we know now, that the laws and institutions which would be well adapted to the beautiful prairies of Illinois would not be suited to the mining regions of California. They knew that in a republic as broad as we have, having such a variety of soil, climate, and interest, there must be a corresponding variety of local laws and institutions, that policies of each state must adapt to their own conditions and wants. For this reason only, this union was established on the right of each state to do as it pleased regarding slavery and every other question, and the various states were not allowed to complain or much less interfere with that policy. But it is apparent that my opponent, Mr. Lincoln, and his party find it necessary for partisan effects to change their colors in different counties in order to catch the popular breeze. Now let me say one thing about Mr. Lincoln. I have nothing personally disrespectful about the man. I've known him for nearly 25 years. There were many points of sympathy between us. We first got acquainted a long time ago. We were both comparatively young boys when we moved to Illinois, both struggling with poverty in a strange land. I was a school teacher in the town of Winchester. He was a flourishing grocery keeper in Salem. He was more successful in his occupation than I, and hence more fortunate in this world. Lincoln is one of those peculiar men who perform with admirable skill in everything he does. I made a good school teacher. I was also a cabinet maker for a short while. I believe Mr. Lincoln was always more successful in his business than I. It enabled him to get in the legislature. He was then just as good at telling an anecdote and a story as now. He could beat any of the boys wrestling, running a foot race, tossing a copper. He had the admiration of everyone in Salem and everywhere else in central Illinois. Mr. Lincoln served with me in the legislature. In 1846, when Wilmot introduced his celebrated proviso and the abolitionist tornado swept this country, Lincoln turned up as a member of Congress from the Sangamo district. I was then in the Senate of the United States. I was glad to welcome my old friend and companion. While in Congress, he distinguished himself by his opposition to the Mexican War, taking the side of the common enemy against his own country. And when he returned home, he found the indignation of the people followed him everywhere. He was obliged to retire then into private life, forgotten by his former friends. He came up again in 1854, just in time to make this abolitionist platform. If Mr. Lincoln is a man of bad character, I leave you to find that out. If his votes in the past are not satisfactory, I leave others to ascertain those facts. If his course on the Mexican War was not in accordance with your notions of patriotism and fidelity to our own country as against the enemy, I leave you to ascertain those facts. I have no assaults to make upon him, except to trace his course on these questions that now divide the country and occupy the people's attention.